Aloha, how you doing? Welcome back to another exciting adventure in Hibachi Talk Land. Pull up a towel, grab yourself a libation, and join us. And we spend a little bit of time talking about the wonderful world of tech. I'm Gordo the Tech Czar, and I'm here with my co-host, Andrew the security guy.
I'm back, brother.
The traveling fool, man, I tell you. So I was solo last week, so...
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I can tell.
Did my other co-host abandon your co-host
position? And then your other co-host abandoned me, so I had to do it all.
But Joe's great, so you had fun. I saw
Joe was good, and we had a great conversation and a lot more stuff. I'd like to have him come on again and talk more stuff going on at the South Pole.
I'll help.
So we got a great guest today, Carl Cox. He's the Vice President and Chief Technology Officer with Rauland-Borg.
Yeah.
Now, not Borg as in cyborg,
Borg.
but Rauland-Borg.
Yeah.
And they're a real interesting company. He's going to talk about some interesting things happening in the world of advanced nurse call technologies. Mm-hmm. So, and Obamacare got approved.
Yeah, might give us a little kicker in there right up his alley.
There's something happening there. Our timing on selecting our shows is just...
Oh, we just knew this.
We knew.
We planned it this way.
We planned it this way.
We're good like
approved.
that.
We get and we do a healthcare segment. Now, there's nothing like this show. Visionary. That's all I can think of.
Even Billy's happy.
Billy's happy about it. Yeah, he's all going off on it. Yeah, so there we're set. Anyway, were you off securing again, off doing some secure stuff? And
I was at Rauland-Borg.
Okay.
Carl chased me back. He actually has a place in Kona, so went out there to examine, an American-made product that is absolutely awesome. Got to tour the manufacturing floor. These guys are at the sort of the pinnacle of improving patient care out there in the world with their focus. They've been at it 70-something years. It's amazing. Wow. So Carl will give us a little more on that. It was really fun, but I learned more than I know, sort of about patient care and the patient experience, and how the model for healthcare money flows to the hospitals and what their concerns are. And I learned a lot last week. It was really a great trip for me.
Well, that's good. And I'm looking forward to having you sit here and talk to us too, because my lovely bride is a nurse, and she's in the OR, so I experienced the healthcare. And
when are we going to get her on here?
And we got to get her on, and then I have we have my daughter, who's a vice president at the skilled nursing facility, so she's in healthcare. So, and I was the CIO at Queens for 8 years.
You're all over this.
But I was older back in those days. That was back when
things have changed
quite a bit. Back in those days, they tested for diabetes by sipping on the urine to make sure that it was sweet. That's how old it was. So, and believe it or not, that was a way back when. That's why I decided not to get into healthcare.
I see. You made a good choice.
Not knowing they would change the technology somehow. But anyway, so that happened. So, so it's going to be kind of cool. So the other thing, so let's do a security minute. I mean, we haven't done one of those in a while, and you've got some interesting you want to show us. So.
I think Zuri's got a picture for me here. This came across my desk this week. It was published. I think the Hacker News put it out first. This device incorporates a software-defined radio with a small PC to basically hack like a laptop computer using the EMF that emanates from the computer to decrypt a set of like RSA keys. And this piece of technology, specifically the piece on the right, that little FunCube Dongle Pro Plus, is something that we talked about here a while back for home alarm system hacking and commercial alarm system hacking. This software-defined radio, this was only, I think, when we first started, maybe 6-8 months ago.
Yeah, we were talking about all this stuff.
It was $1,000, and now it's down to $200. So the definitive takeaway for me was how easy it is today for someone who's interested in intercepting radio communications can pick up this device. There's now Windows software for it, as well as Linux software for it. I went and looked, free Windows, sdraradio.com.
What does it do?
So, well, with this device here, just with this antenna tuned from a distance of almost 2 feet away, basically your laptop, as the processor's turning, it's giving off EMF, and depending on how hard it's working, that's changing a little bit. So this device can sense that. So when it goes to process like an encryption key, it can sense that too, and you can actually take this device, tune it to that, look at that RF radiation, and then decrypt that key.
Wow.
And I don't even have to touch the device. Right. And so they put this, if you'll notice, this is in a PITA. They call it PITA hacking because it's actually small enough to fit in a PITA. So I could have it sitting there on a counter and hacking you and you never know. But this can be done at much greater distances as well, with just different antenna configurations.
I can't get a sense for the size, but how big is it right?
Size of
like
a pita, sure.
Wow, just like that. Wow, that's pretty cool. You know, I got something in the mail the other day there from a firm, and you know those plugs that you plug into your
A dongle.
dongle, but you plug it into your old cigarette lighter that's on your
I see, okay.
but you know, it's a kind of really a fat one. It's bigger than I normally get, and I'm going. You know, my paranoia, thanks to you, is happening.
You're learning.
Like, I don't know if I want to plug this in.
No.
And plug
Where'd it
my
come
device
from?
into. Well, it said made in China,
Yeah.
which also
Don't plug in the guy hack your car, man.
I said, you know what? I can plug that in. They're going to hack my car or whatever I plug into it. I'm just gotten so paranoid. So I want to open it up.
You don't need it. You open it up.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up.
X-ray it something. Let Cindy take it in and take a look.
We'll
see
take
what's
a
in
picture.
there.
We'll bring
see
it
what
back.
kind of chips are in it.
See it, yeah,
It'd be interesting to know. It
'cause
came in the mail?
It came in the mail.
Like a vendor giveaway
Yeah, you know, the
thingy?
swag kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, about a week later, get this, we notice you haven't logged on to our website.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. But then I went back to
Whoa.
the original letter, and there was a thing about going onto the website. But you know, the fact is, they already sent it to me. They tracked it whether or not I went into their website.
So the device didn't
So
call
I'm just
home.
wondering, I'm thinking, now did the device supposed to call
The
home?
device did not call
I'm
home,
st-
exactly.
I start wondering.
Dude,
So-
go in the rubbish.
so anyway,
Don't even X-ray it, just toss it. That's
So the paranoia.
that's not safe.
The paranoia is setting in. So anyway, so it's kind of interesting that we're going to see these, you know, pitas around town.
I hope not.
Yeah.
But the critical thing is the power of software-defined radio. I mean, this was 10 grand to do something like this, and Carl could probably tell us how long ago. Software-defined radio has been around a while, but it was $1,000, which made it pretty prohibitive just recently. And now down for a few $100s and free software I can take, and you need some know-how, and you need to know what you're tuning to. You know, you need to know the frequency of this chipset, for example. But it's just getting easier and easier and easier, and that's RF. People understand hacking the wire and stealing data packets. This is doing it based off of EMF, which is
your electronic fields coming off the computer,
Sure.
off the device. You know, you talk about radio, and this is not quite the same, but it was when we were doing work for HPD or their first responders. We were bringing in mobile devices and so on. And when the Apples first came out with their devices and so on, there were free radios, download radios. You could turn them into 800 megahertz radio.
Oh, yeah.
800 megahertz radio-like devices. So I'm sitting in a room, and they're talking about all their secure 800 megahertz radio systems, and I just download right while I'm sitting there and say, oh, by the way, here, Honolulu, 800 megahertz. I'm now listening to the channel that you're broadcasting on.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you're thinking about how secure and how tight everything is here, because you're broadcasting this and it's already out there.
That's right.
So and it's picking up. So kind of really, you know, interesting
Well, the
stuff.
thing is, some of the simple things that people don't pay attention to, right? Which we talk about all the time.
Yeah. Well, speaking of simple things that people
Oh,
don't talk
what do we got?
We're gonna let's. You know, we got. You know, got one tech job. You know,
Okay.
one of my favorite segments. You know, got one tech job. So we look around for those people that aren't in tech and see what exciting lives they have. So we found another one that we'll get you to pop this one up. You know, got one tech job. So this one is an absolute buster. I tell you, you just can't get over this. So
What is this?
So here we are. This is
That's East Africa, by the way.
around the world. Yeah, it's Hong Kong. This person is CNN Live, I might add. So not only does this person got one tech job, they don't even know how to use Google Maps.
Wow.
I mean, look at that. It's just awesome.
Oh, that's embarrassing.
But
We've had worse, but you know, those supposed to know what they're doing.
You know, the headline too is giant hornets kill 42 people in
China. And
So,
there's China right
there's
there
China right
in
there.
Hong Kong and Eastern Africa,
I
basically.
don't know. I define giant hornet. I don't know. Anyway, got one tech job. Keep sending them in. By the way, these are some of the great ones. There's some. We have to go to the next channel to put up that we're getting now. So
yeah.
I got to put those out.
We'll leave that for someone else.
We'll leave those to the side. So anyway, we got this interesting stuff happening. So what else did you do when you were up at?
I just honestly
the
just
Borg
worked. Yeah, I
factory?
didn't go get to the Blackhawks won, so it was amazing. Chicago was really going nuts. I watched that on TV at the hotel. I didn't want to get out in the crowd or anything. Tickets were $2,000 standing room only.
Wow.
$10,000 for a chair or something. It was just insane.
Yeah.
So everyone there sort of knew about. Obviously, there was a lot of Blackhawks fans there, so that was a big.
Well, that's why
a
it's
big
called
thing.
Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah, the next
And you were in
day
Chicago.
when we came to the office, they had banners from them winning a few recently. They already had taped up little logos with 2015.
Right.
Yeah, so they're that hard.
Yeah, if you're, growing up in Canada, where people where you learn to skate before you learn to walk.
Do they have a little hockey up there?
A little hockey up there. Going crazy. I've been a Toronto fan forever, and we've been on a drought like forever.
Is that right?
It's going to be, I don't know. I think 1949 was the last time they won.
Oh.
Anyway, so the year I was born, so, and I remember it though. So it's an insanity, and having gone to a Chicago Blackhawk hockey game. And the national anthem, when they sing the national anthem there, you are ready to take on the world. It's like nothing you have ever experienced in any athletic event ever. So I encourage people, even if you don't like hockey, just go to a Chicago Blackhawk hockey game and enjoy the national anthem.
The specter of it all.
Because you'll be ready.
So you're just rubbing that in because I couldn't get tickets or whatever?
You could get tickets. You're just too cheap to buy.
Yeah, I couldn't afford it.
$2,000.
I'm too broke. I'm not too cheap.
$2,000. So what else has been happening in our world in the tech side? I mean, we got the Obamacare thing coming through, which is going to have a huge impact on technology. People don't realize that what's going to happen now is that with Obamacare, money's going to free up. People are going to start, the medical industry, particularly the hospitals or clinics and those kinds of things, they're going to start, money that they've been sitting on is going to start I think they're going to start spending those dollars now. And it's going to be interesting to see what they spend it on, but I know that a fair bit of it is on tech because we're getting requests now from medical facilities to start beefing up more of the technologies that they've got their infrastructure on.
And I'm seeing that in the physical world as well. So there's some pent-up maintenance. There's always that. I don't know if there's ever enough money to maintain existing systems and augment them. Some of the facilities that we manage here in Hawaii have been on quite a growth spurt, and so the new stuff's been handled, but the older stuff's the maintenance has kind of been lacking. So I'm starting to see that money get released, and maybe they have a more sure environment, I think, of where their reimbursements are going to come from now that the ACA deal is, I guess, not a state by state can't attack it, right? So the feds laid down the law. This is it. It's going to stay in place, and that's a lot of their reimbursement dollars come from, I think, the Medicare insurance side of that. And so now if that's stable for them, I think it'll let them invest.
Yeah, they'll start putting
money,
capital money.
Sure.
Anyway, we're it's that time. I got to go take a Lua break and be back in a second.
On the beach?
And we're going to grab Angus. He's down there making a fool of himself as usual. And then we're going to have Carl Cox come in and talk about nurse call systems and stuff happening in healthcare. Anyway, so we'll be back in a minute.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Center Stage airs every Wednesday at 2 o'clock, and of course you can check out our archives on YouTube or on ThinkTech Hawaii anytime you like. Why should you do that? Because this is an arts show that I believe is making a difference in lives. We talk with artists of various ilk. We talk with painters and writers, playwrights, novelists, poets, sculptors, dancers, you name it, directors, actors, of course. And we don't only talk about what people do, but we talk about how they do it. And my favorite part of the conversation, we talk about why they do it. And it's really common on this show to hear people say, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And it's very common to hear people afterwards who have seen the show say the same thing. And I hear all the time that people are inspired by the conversations that we have. So why don't you join us and be inspired too? That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock. We'll see you Center Stage.
Hi, I'm Ethan Allen. I host Likeable Science on ThinkTech Hawaii, and I do this because I care about science literacy in Hawaii. I want to spread the understanding that science is a vital and interesting part of everyone's life. I want to make sure the broadest possible spectrum of people understand the beauty and the value of science and realize that science plays out each and every day of their lives. I want you to understand that science is fun. So we bring on to this show each week guests who are scientists, from astronomers to zoologists, and we talk about what they do and how they do it. But most importantly, we talk about why you should care about their work, why you should see that their work has value and impact on your life. So I hope you'll join us Fridays, 1 p.m. here on ThinkTech Hawaii. You can watch us via live stream. You can watch us recorded on Olelo, and you can see us each week. We hope you'll join us.
Hi, aloha. My name is Chris Leatham, and I host a show called The Economy and You. The show plays every Wednesday at noon, and on my show, I bring on guests who are interested or working in the technology space. And so I'd like you to come and watch the show and learn with me about all the sort of exciting things that we're doing in Hawaii to build and grow our economy ecosystem. So I'd like to say aloha, and I look forward to seeing you on the show. Thank you.
Aloha. Welcome back to Hibachi Talk. Guess who we got coming up next? Angus is going to have some, I think, socks for us. Angus, what do you got, man?
How you doing there, Drew? It's always good to see you, lad.
All right.
You had a really good trip?
Very good, very good. I learned a lot for once.
Yep, was it snowing up there?
No, it was the one day of summer.
Oh, that's right, yeah. It's kind of like Edinburgh, one day of summer. Yeah, that's all we get up there. Anyway, Drew, I got a couple of things, but first as we're talking about healthcare, I got a wee healthcare joke for you.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the difference between a rectal thermometer and an oral thermometer?
What?
Any idea what the difference is? It's the taste, lad. It's the taste. Anyway,
that's
I know,
sick, Angus.
sad. I'm
Angus.
going to cut that one out of this show.
Oh,
anyway,
Angus.
I want to talk to you about this really cool piece of technology I found when I was out there searching the web. It's called Sensoria Smart Sock. It's a sock that's smart. That's a really cool thing. And you know what? You're always riding your bicycle and running around and doing all kinds of cool things. You wear these socks, and it tracks what you're doing. It tracks your heart rate, and it tracks your foot rate, and it tracks your paces, and it does all kinds of sensors, and it blows up the data and everything that's on it. And then what you can do is you can take instructions from it, and it'll tell you how to improve, how to get better.
Can you give me some for my birthday?
Yeah, get yourself for your birthday. My father would have loved these socks. You know why?
Why?
Every time he buy me a new pair of shoes, and he saw me one day, he said, "What are the new shoes for?" "There's your new shoes." I said, "Hi, they are my new shoes." He said, "Well, you know what? Take bigger strides, they'll last longer." So anyway, these socks are going to be coming out really soon, so we're looking forward to seeing these.
Awesome.
Anyway, that's the gadget I got for this week, and then we're going to be looking up for some really cool stuff next week. Anyway, I'm going back down to the beach and play with the lassies, and remember, everybody, let your wind gang free wherever you be. Aloha!
Right. Hey, thanks, Angus. All right, man, take it easy. Enjoy the beach. Well, welcome back. Our next guest is Executive Vice President and CTO of Rauland-Borg, a American manufacturing company specializing in education and healthcare verticals. Carl, welcome. Pleasure to have you here, sir.
It's good to be here.
Right on.
Carl, nice to see you, man. Chicago Blackhawks fan.
You know this guy, of course he's a Blackhawks fan, but he also has a Kona home like you, so you guys share some residency.
Yeah, we're close to each other.
But
But
we're very happy about the Blackhawks.
I saw that.
I bet. So we bring our guests on, and we always, we kind of have the standard things that we like to check about. It's like where you went to school, where you grew up, those kinds of
Yeah,
things.
tell us your whole history. Give us your, it's a short one. We know you're, still a really young guy. So.
Well, I started off in Kentucky.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm originally
a Kentucky
from.
native. There's more than one of us.
That's right. Are you
Grew up-
related?
No. Well, you never know.
By definition. By definition, we're related.
Yeah.
But I went to school in Cleveland, was a graduate of Cleveland State Fenn College of Engineering, Bachelor of Electrical Engineering degree. Went to work for a nurse call company in Cleveland that was purchased in 1979 by Rauland-Borg. And I moved with the company, and I've been at Rauland for the last 36 years. I started working on nurse call in 1974.
Wow.
And you mentioned before that we were going to be talking about nurse call today, but we don't call it nurse call anymore. We call it workflow.
Oh.
And that's really what we're talking about, and that's what's evolved with the product. What started off in the old days as the call bell system has now become a tool for caregivers to get better care for patients, and we call it workflow.
Yeah, you just think now, when you walk into a medical facility, you see the light above the door. Now there's multiple colors, I think.
It's stuff on the walls.
And stuff's on the walls and so on. So what's happening?
What was it? What was it before? I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, it started off with
Was there a cowbell?
Believe it or not, it started off with a handbell, and that's why it became the call bell system. And then it migrated in the 50s and early 60s to a simple electronic system with a call button by the patient, a light over the door, and a tone would ring at a central enunciator panel.
Right.
And that evolved into two-way audio communication so that you could actually talk directly to a nurse, and she might avoid a trip by not, if you're calling to ask what time it is, she doesn't have to come all the way to the room.
Right.
Or what time is my doctor going to come visit? There's a lot that can be handled that way. That then migrated to the ability for the nurse to be mobile, not sitting at a console unit, but where she could move around. That was done with pocket pagers at the time.
Yeah,
so they
I
would
remember
actually-
those.
That
Yep.
was the first level of integration. Picker-Briggs was the first company to ever do that.
The Picker guys.
And
Used to
that's where I
golf with
worked.
those.
I worked with Picker-Briggs for 5 years before Rauland. Rauland was the first company to make a microprocessor-based nurse call system that was UL listable, reliable system, and that was our big entry into the market. And as our systems are required by code, in other words, from a life safety perspective, through the NFPA 99, which is the electrical code for hospital systems, you must have a system in a hospital or a nursing home, skilled nursing facility. So we get into hospitals because we're required by code.
Okay, there you go.
The same sense that a fire
Sure.
alarm
Right,
would
okay.
be, or smoke detectors would be required. And what we've done, because we have a network that connects patients and nurses together, is we've begun to leverage that network and add functions into the system that allow nurses or other caregivers to be more efficient in providing care for the patients, hence the term workflow.
Workflow. So it's interesting you say, so you know, people wouldn't necessarily realize this, is that the workflow systems, see, I'm going to learn this,
See.
the workflow systems that are now at hospitals are a requirement to get your licensing and certification at the
Occupancy.
hospital. And they have to, and we've had some interesting discussion on this, the systems have to be certified
Correct.
and meet certain criteria on the certification. So that's happening on that piece.
But there is limits, which I learned that, so they don't have to have like necessarily workflow. For example, workflow improves it, but what's the real, there's a base limit, like you can't have just a cowbell anymore or a ding dong, but you do
No.
have to be able to like communicate
A
to the
ding
nurse
dong?
or something, like a, what do they call it?
Isn't that a
No,
dessert?
You can't just give them a kazoo, you know, like you gotta have
Ding dong.
you have to have some
The-
sort of communication that's like verifiable, and it's gotta be supervised and what have you.
The
right?
minimum configuration for a nurse call system would be the call button by the patient, a pull cord station in the bathroom,
Yeah, so if you
and-
fall in the bathroom, so you can get help.
a light over the door, we
Okay.
call that a quarter light, a duty station, which is a device that would show multiple calls at a location,
Okay.
and a console. And that would be the minimal configuration that you would have to have in order to get occupancy in a building
Okay.
By code, so
by
that's
code.
pretty
So
good.
that's
It's
the
come a long
minimum.
way since then, though.
And
yeah.
where you're at right now with this is that we can now layer the workflow on top of that basic system to where you get both the life safety portion, that ability to place a call, and then all of the efficiency that would be involved with modern communications.
So
Communications.
is this part of the Internet of Everything? Is this folding into that?
It is. Our workflow terminal is an IoT device.
Okay.
And
Internet of Everything.
Internet of Everything, IoT. And it is a device that allows you to match caregiving to that particular patient. We do a number of functions with that. An example would be rounding. Now, rounding is an old concept.
Is that like
in
when you
nursing.
round up all the patients and send them down to the
No.
cafeteria?
That's what you would think, right? Like roundup.
Right. No, rounding is when you would actually go visit the patient on a periodic basis.
Oh, doing your rounds.
Yeah.
Doing your rounds. But they
Okay.
call it actually rounding.
Okay.
And the Studer Group, which is a efficiency organization for nurses, has studied this in great detail. And if you do periodic rounding with a patient, particularly patients that are post-op, that have just come out of the operating room, and you go by on a regular basis, you check their vitals, you check to see that they're doing okay. If you don't come, the system reminds you to come.
Oh,
And the sy-
logs
and
and
logs
records
that
it.
you've come.
Ah, you can see this.
So the
Sure.
Studer Group publishes, and I'm going to read this off my screen, that doing rounding reduces calls by 38%, so the amount of work and the amount of times you have to react to the patient. It reduces falls by patient by 50%.
I remember doing a paper on falls.
It increases patient satisfaction by 9%, and it reduces pressure ulcers by 14%. So
Wow.
falls
Oh, so
and
term- like-
ulcers are two of the hospital-acquired injuries you can have when you're in the hospital.
Right, right.
So rounding, which seems like a relatively simple concept, the system reminds you and logs the fact that you're rounding, kind of like a security guard that
Sure.
walks around
Sure,
and
and he's got
plugs
the
in.
little
Okay.
plug in or he.
But now, I gotta be wondering though, and with the nurses' union and all that, when this
Sure.
stuff first started, they couldn't have believed that this was gonna happen. They were probably saying, no, you've added more duties to the nurse now that you're reminding them that they've gotta do this kind of stuff.
Well, what it does in particular is it allows the nurse to spend more time with the patient. So it actually increases the satisfaction, the work satisfaction of the nurse, because they get to spend more time with the patient, less time back at the central area charting and logging.
Right.
Now, there are other things besides workflow that, nowadays they'll have charting computers or computers on wheels, cows we call them.
Oh yeah, remember those cows, yeah.
In the room where they can do some of the charting. But the idea is that you don't want the nurse being back at a central area, you want the nurse being out with a patient. That's why nurses become nurses, is to
That's
treat
right,
patients.
yeah, not to sit there at the
So
desk.
the idea of these devices and communications are allow them to do their primary function and to reduce that part of their job that's not rewarding, that's not useful. One of the things
Okay,
they
hold that time, we gotta pay some bills.
Is that-
Hold
that
it fast.
fast?
Yeah, that fast,
Wow.
we're rocking
Yeah, so
as
we're getting to
usual.
the
So anyway,
integration.
we gotta take a minute and pay some bills. So we'll be back in just a second, and we're here with Carl Cox, talking about advanced nurse call systems, plus more stuff.
Aloha, my name is Miley Scarpino, and I'm the host of the Empower Hour. If you're interested in health, nutrition, fitness, here on the island of Oahu, want to learn more about places to train at or different trainers available, then watch my show on Fridays at 3. We have a great time, and I hope that you'll come join us. Much aloha. Now go get swole.
Aloha, my name is Paul Jackson, better known as PJ, and my local interest is in sports. I have my own sports radio show at KWAI AM 1080 that you can stream live. I also have my own website, pjsportsradio.com. We have live guests in studio, and we talk about discussions and topics that everyone wants to know locally here on the islands. We cover everything from surfing to basketball to whatever's going on locally, sports-wise. We try to do our best and cover the topics in depth as much as we can. Once again, thank you for joining PJ here on Hawaii Sports Update. Mahalo.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ted Ralston. Ted is the host of Where the Road Leads. It shows every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about technology. It's about how people collaborate and solve problems with modern technology. It's where the road leads. We all know that. We should all be listening. Join us there, 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday. Now, what about that do you agree with?
All of it.
I knew he'd say that. Aloha. Say aloha.
Aloha.
Good.
Aloha, my name is Josh Green. I'm a senator from the Big Island and the ER physician. Every other Tuesday, I get to host a show here on the ThinkTech program about healthcare. We call it Healthcare in Hawaii. It's really enjoyable for me to bring other healthcare leaders from around the state to talk about our pressing issues. Hawaii has long been the health state, but we need to keep up the momentum, the inertia, and with your help and with your participation, we can come and share all of the big issues that are pressing day to day. Thanks for joining us every Tuesday, alternating weeks from 2 to 2:45.
Aloha, how you doing? Welcome back to Hibachi Talk. I'm here with Drew, my security guy, and Carl Cox, who's the Vice President, Chief Technology Officer for Rauland-Borg, R-A-U-L-A-N-D Borg, out of
Chicago.
Out of Chicago, duh. Out of Chicago, and we're talking about advanced technologies in healthcare, nurse call systems, workflow, as we were talking about earlier. But before we do this, and speaking of advanced technologies, we always have these little other segments we go along, and we find these great pieces of technology. So, Andrew, you found this this wonderful thing.
It's ridiculous.
It's amazing. So this is a.
Can we zoom in on that?
Zoom on that.
Zuri,
a little bit. That's a.
That's an ultrasonic bird repeller.
Ultrasonic bird repeller. And if you notice the nest at the top of that.
I'm not thinking that's the best technology to invest in anytime soon.
I'm just wondering.
Look at that.
There, how's that? So it's an OB4 ultrasonic bird repeller.
And it's got a CE stamp. It must work.
Is it UL approved?
Maybe it only works in Canada.
Is it UL approved? I don't know.
I don't think so.
It could be UL certified. It's up to a matter of interpretation. But there it is right there, and there's the bird right on top with the little chickies all set up nicely. And it is plugged in, so we can't say that, well, it's not plugged in.
Some things just advertise their own obsolescence. That's all I'm saying.
I know, it's just awesome. And I was thinking of getting a whole bunch of those to put around my house. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, just because it'll attract the birds. It'll bring them in.
Oh, you want to bring them in?
Yeah, I'll bring
Nice.
them in, give them a place to nest. Anyway, so getting back to, we're having this conversation with Carl on the wonderful worlds of healthcare.
Yeah, and these nurse calls. So I learned up there this week myself that the system itself. We talked about some of the base components that you have to have, but today, obviously, what appealed to me was the integration that they have with it now as an IP-based system, right? So we bring in real-time locating systems with RFID on the staff, and we bring in mobile communications with devices out in the field. So can you tell us a little bit about how that evolution, of the product has occurred?
Well, again, we have a basic network that connects the patient and the nurse. And we know inside that basic network which nurse is taking care of which patient. And that is the core piece of information that allows us to tie on these integrations to add more value for both the patient and the nurse. We don't really call it as integrations. We call it as interoperability, because you have so many systems inside the hospital, everything from an EMR system,
Electronic medical records, real big today,
to wireless communications, to the, like you mentioned, the RTLS systems, and we have patient engagement systems. These are smart TVs, if you will, where the patient
you get bored when you're laying in there, right? And you want to be able to select.
Well, they also use that for delivering specific content. If you have a operation, it may be a post-op set of sequence that they want you to view, or you may use it to select your meals.
Yep.
So
menus are up
we
there.
have the ability to be interoperable with all these devices because we're in that location. So Rauland's claim to fame in this area is we are the most interoperable workflow system out there in the market. We are interoperable with every single RTLS vendor, with every single mobile phone vendor.
RTLS vendor is a
real-time locating system.
Okay.
Yeah, like I didn't wear my badge, but an active RFID tag. And so you can imagine, we talked about hitting a button when you arrive in the room, but this thing can just, the nurse, when she enters the room, it automatically knows she's there and silences the...
We need to put an RTLS on you because you're never here.
Is that, I'm trying to be here more.
Well, the RTLS acts somewhat like a GPS tracker would on it, and there are multiple kinds of technologies. That's why there's so many vendors. There are infrared systems, there are RFID systems, there are systems that use 802.11 with triangulation for location. Either way, what we're doing is taking the fact that the nurse is in proximity with the patient, and then we can take a rules engine and make decisions on that basis. If a call would come from that room while the nurse is in the room, our assumption would be it's more important, because if that nurse needs somebody, that raises or escalates the alarm.
Or event.
So you can actually match those events together. As you mentioned before, a nurse walks into the room, a call is in progress, we can actually reset the call because we know the nurse has walked into the room. So a lot of this becomes a matter of knowing where people are and then matching where they are with what their intended function is, and then we can make decisions and record them. And of course, the most important part is we can record them and we can create reports for the hospital on how efficient it is.
It goes in the chart.
There's a specific example of that I wanted to mention, and that was the first outbreak of MERS, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome, occurred in a hospital in Northeast Indiana. That hospital had one of our Responder 5 systems integrated with an RTLS system. When the patient was admitted, of course, they didn't know he had MERS, but as they began to work on the patient and they discovered that, it became extremely critical to know everywhere he'd been in the hospital and every person that had come in contact with him. And that information was drawn from our system and provided to the CDC in order
Center for Disease Control.
In order, healthcare is like everywhere else, so it's acronym FAT. So this is an absolute example of how what became a normal technology for the way they do their business in that hospital became an absolute lifesaver in terms of tracking down all the people that were exposed, allowing them to isolate any potential exposure of it and not expand the problem anywhere else in the community.
Is it safe to say, I was thinking back when my days in working in healthcare, the workflow nurse call systems were just an add-on. What I'm starting to get a sense now is that they're more of a primary part of the care delivery component now as to being looked at as a secondary part.
Well, they've moved from being an alarm system to being a system that actually helps the staff in administering care to the patients. So you are correct.
So yeah, I'm just...
It's interesting how much patient satisfaction plays a role. So there's other organizations that track patient satisfaction, and these hospitals actually get remunerated from places like Medicare and Medicaid based on the levels of reported patient satisfaction. So taking care of people and how people say their care was is actually can affect your bottom line.
So
if you're a hospital organization.
And looking at how healthcare's changed, right? From long-term care to, not long-term care, you have it, but when you go, a lot of outpatient work goes on now.
Correct.
Versus, staying in the hospital. So does workflow get down into that outpatient side?
Oh, and it's particularly effective in the outpatient side. Many hospitals are dealing with a high influx of patients that come through the outpatient care. So the ability to organize those patients as they come through so that the services are provided on a timely basis is very helpful, and it also adds to patient satisfaction. A perfect example is an eye clinic. So when you go in to have your eyes checked, you get eye drops, they dilate your eyes, have to sit there for 20 minutes before they can come in. Many clinics were essentially forgetting about patients, and they sit there an hour and 20 minutes, be very ineffective. They now track all of this with workflow so that when the patient's eyes are dilated, they automatically pop up in the system, they get treated right away. And this does two things. It's very efficient for the caregivers, for the providers, if you will. And it's much more efficient for the patients because they don't spend as much time sitting and waiting.
I know, because you can't read when your eyes are all dilated.
Exactly. You cannot read them.
I didn't think of that.
But it's a perfect example of where workflow comes in. Other examples are emergency room. Still to this day, 40% of hospital admits come through emergency room. And
wow, that's still high.
Still a very high number. And tracking patients through the ED is a big deal. You actually see things now. I see billboards in my community in Chicago for local hospitals advertising the average wait time in their emergency room right on the billboard. So you're driving down the Tri-State Tollway and you can see that such and such hospital, you would only have a 2-minute wait or a 15-minute wait to get into the emergency room.
Well, versus, and I can tell you from being a kid, when you break almost every bone in your body, that you used to sit in that ER for hours and hours and hours.
Depending on your, what was wrong with you.
Think of it in three ways here. One way is revenue per the provider.
Right.
If they're not treating those people on a timely basis, they're not billing
right.
for treating those people on a timely basis. The second issue is throughput. I mean, just reasonably speaking, you want to be as efficient as you can be in your delivery so that the amount of manpower you have assigned to the ED is handled correctly. And then three, of course, your comment that the patients don't want to sit around and wait forever, particularly if you're in the emergency room, you're sick, you're hurt, you're bleeding, you're broken. The longer you wait, the worse it is for you and the worse your experience.
I thought it was just me. I'm glad you had to wait too.
No, I've waited. I can remember those days. And I'll think about surgeries, outpatient, inpatient. My first eye surgery, and I've had eye surgeries, I was in for a week. Now I've had multiple since then, and it's outpatient.
Right.
And you're back to work the next day. Yeah, there's none of this long-term waiting, but you're in and out.
There are a lot of surgeries now that are, for instance, internal laparoscopic surgeries, and those are generally day surgeries. If you come in for setting broken bones or putting a plate in a broken bones, those are typically all day surgeries. So you're in and out, and process is everything. So in other words, when you come in, they schedule you for a time. My son just went through a broken ankle a month and a half ago, and had to go in and have a plate put in his ankle. Now, he's 39 years old. He's not a spring chicken anymore.
Was he skateboarding?
No.
He was playing hockey.
No, he was walking his dog.
Oh, nothing too sexy.
The dog spotted a duck and went, and the dog was bigger than he is, and down he went, and the ankle was snapped.
He has to tell the dog-duck story when he has to explain his ankle.
So. And then walks into a bar with a dog and a duck.
No. You can just, it goes on forever. The poor guy has been slaughtered with stories, but he went to the emergency room, got treated right away that day. They waited for the swelling to go down, put ice on him, and then 2 days later they operated and put a plate in there to bridge and allow the bone to heal. So his surgery was set at 9:30 in the morning, show up at 9 o'clock, go through the prep. Everything is on a clock.
Right.
And everything moves in and out, and that gives him the ability to treat many people instead of treating fewer people because they're using the rooms efficiently.
Right, and I think my wife was telling me the cost of a operating room, just to run the room, not any of the bodies in it or any of the equipment, is $62 a minute. So if you think a minute. So if you think you're in there for a 3 or 4 hour surgery, just that cost of the room is $62 a minute, and then you add on top of that all of the other pieces. You want that patient in and out there fast.
Probably nothing is more of a process than an OR room is, if you think about that. In improving safety in OR is all about process. I mean, even as simple as counting the surgical devices that before you close the patient to make sure you
sponges
haven't
and all
let
that.
Oh, to
the
make sure you
sponge.
got them all.
Yeah, there are
Oh.
processes like that where doctors do, and they go through process. And process and repetition of process creates efficiency, but it also creates safety for the patient.
Yeah,
So it's a very important thing.
And tracking and all those kinds of things. So coming back to this, are the beds being part of this interoperability of the workflow?
They have moved that way. Beds have a lot of knowledge in the bed. For instance, many beds can actually weigh a patient now. That information can be provided.
Wow.
The bed can give you an indication that a patient is trying to get out of the bed.
Yeah, like
We
if
call
they
that a
get
bed
up.
exit.
The
you know.
falls,
So the
prevent the falls?
fall risk scenario.
Whether the rails are up and down,
Brakes
angle
are
of the
set on the
bed.
bed. There are a number of things that can be collected off the bed that provide information.
They tell you when to rotate the patient, was what I was going to say, or flip the patient.
Well, that's
do
part of
that.
rounding, I think, but yeah.
That's part of it. They can do that, but they also, the beds have very sophisticated mattresses now that try and cut down on the bed sores. You know, bed
Contact
sores, contact bed sores is a big problem, especially for long-term patients.
Right,
So
right.
if you're in the hospital for 2 days, bed sores is not such a big deal. But if you're in the hospital for 10 days,
Yep.
how you're laying and how you're left laying can impact you very much.
Yeah, and it's susceptible to infections and all those kinds of things.
And we toured a facility yesterday, and there were these specialized infant beds, these cribs that had all this control on the crib. Was amazing as well. So
Wow,
there's-
wow.
There's a lot of
where's it
specialization.
headed? Where do you see it headed? You've been doing this for 35 plus years.
Right.
So, and you've seen it evolve. What do you think the next big wave is going to be, or something, a surprise that's going to be coming down the pipeline?
Well, I think the next big wave is going to be in next generation wireless in the hospital. So there are a lot of things we do now where you're manually touching buttons or manually touching cords. And I think the next generation, we're going to be more removed from the wall, if you will, more mobile.
More in the bubble.
So we've already done it now with staff. I think the next generation is going to be doing it with patients.
Staff patient stuff.
Oh, so
Well, so the staffs are already
monitor
carrying wireless devices.
Right.
And right now, generally speaking, the patients aren't. And I think the patients are going to be moving to wireless devices as well, so that the communication can follow the patient anywhere they are.
Yeah, I think I saw something called WonderGuard or something like that.
Yeah, like
That's
that.
WonderGuard is a way that's generally used either in infant or Alzheimer dementia patients, so
Yeah.
that you want to make sure that the patient who may not know where they're going doesn't wander off from a facility, or somebody doesn't wander in, pick up a baby and wander off from the facility. So those are wireless devices, but I'm thinking at a higher level. If you have a patient tagged with a wireless device, you now know who that patient is.
Right.
So those rules engines of patient in proximity with this examination room, this caregiver, that's going to escalate the knowledge we have and the reporting we can do, the input to EMR, emergency medical records. Anything that you can do passively becomes more reliable because you don't depend on a person to sit down and enter the
Because they do it at the end of their
terminal.
shift, or they forget, or the end of their
Oh,
round.
yeah, I remember.
So there's always human error,
I remember
right?
the stickies on their arms and all this stuff. You got to put it on the chart and so on.
We saw some of that in a facility yesterday on the walls.
Well, you're not going to believe this, but once again, we have burned through a lunch hour, and we've taken 45 minutes of your time, and thank you for joining us. And Carl, this is
This is my souvenir
Yes,
that
sir.
I get to take home.
You get to
We
take
don't let
home.
anyone leave empty-handed.
So
This is excellent.
This is your souvenir solo
This
cup.
is the best thing I've gotten in days.
So you can take that, cherish it. There's only 23 of those out there now. So
Wow.
So
Serial number on here?
Oh, yeah.
That's not a bad idea.
23. We'll write that on it.
Well, that's part of the
We
record
needed an
keeping,
engineer in
yeah.
here to help us out with some of our
That's a good idea.
our processes.
We'll start doing that.
Thank
So
you.
anyway, Carl, I want to thank you so much for joining us, flying all the way down from Chicago to be part of this program. This is awesome. And
All
so
right.
thanks for doing that. And Rauland-Borg is your company. Website?
www.rauland.com, RAULAND.com.
So cool stuff out there. And also, if you want to follow us on Hibachi Talk, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter. please do that. Our following count is getting up there, man. I tell you, it's
Right on.
We're heading for it. Watch out, Jimmy Kimmel. Here we come. Anyway, I want to
Thanks,
thank
Zuri.
you, Drew, for
Thank
being
you.
here. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, Zuri, for helping us.
Thanks, Jay.
This is another show. Jay, for
Where's
this
Jay? He's not
opportunity.
here today.
Yeah, he's not here. New time starting next week. We're going to be doing it 1 o'clock Hawaii time.
We are?
We're moving up. So
Will I be awake?
I hope so.
Okay.
Anyways, past your bedtime. You take a nap. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for joining us here in Hibachi Talk. And remember, how you doing?